Well, hello, y'all. This is Market Explainer. We are the Business News Podcast. I want to tell you about our sponsor for this segment. Meet the new store of value. It's actually the same as the old store of value. Timeless, thoughtfully designed, and guaranteed to retain value in a way cash won't. An excellent first weight, 2.5 grams of gold, is an excellent first weight for the pro gold investor or the new gold investor to accumulate gold over time. The modern design and a mirror-like finish, you too can get into gold investing. I'm not saying that the world is turning upside down because of the story we just did or anything. I'm just saying that's weird. You can hit the link down in the description down below, and you can go get started with Acre Gold. And hey, by the way, before we get into this next story, we have a website now. Go to marketexplainer.com.
Oh, we do. That's right. I almost forgot about that.
Right. You can go to marketexplainer.com. We have all of our backstories, all of that stuff. We're going to start adding more content there over time, so I want you to head out and check that out. But hey, before all of that matters, Scarlett Johansson is suing Disney.
Danny was so happy when he sent me this story this week, and whatever.
So excited.
So a quick look. As always, when a millionaire, Scarlett Johansson, sues
multi-millionaire,
a billion-dollar company like Disney, for example, it's always about money, right? Like it's just
you don't say.
It's always about money, right? It's and look, Scarlett Johansson. This is probably her last Marvel movie anyway, so she probably has zero fear about pissing off Disney. Right? Like, right. So, like, the Black Widow movie, she died in, spoiler alert, she died in the last major Marvel movie, right? Then they made the spinoff of her. So this is probably it for her, so she's not worried about coming back and playing Black Widow again or whatever. So, because that's always, I assume in any employee, even as an actor, you're afraid to piss off big executives because you may never work to Disney again, right? Or whatever. So, the short story is...
But that does...
Go ahead.
I mean, listen... There is a concern there now, which is like, hey, I've been in employment situations where I absolutely, according to an attorney, was screwed over and had legal cause to go after them. And the attorney's advice was, well, and no one can legally prohibit you from applying for a job with another company.
Right.
And everybody talks, bro. Everybody knows everybody, and everybody talks.
And that's always a danger, right?
Like, listen. If it's a middle six-figure number, I don't need another job from anybody. So it's fine.
Well, but being blackballed in Hollywood is a real thing. I mean, Keanu Reeves being blackballed in Hollywood is a real thing. I mean, Keanu Reeves for what, a decade, 15 years, right? And that kind of. So it's a real thing. But look, it essentially is over what Scarlett Johansson and her lawyers think is about $50 million, right? The short story is, and here's what I don't understand all the time, because I think, and again, legalese, you get into a bunch of different contracts and what's right and wrong. A lot of it's opinions and wording and yada yada. My point, though, is I try to be a very logical, upfront kind of guy. I like things easy, simple, you know what I mean? Easy to understand. And the fact is Scarlett Johansson knew back in March of this year that they were going to release this not only in movie theaters, but on Disney Plus. She knew back in March, so this is not like
a streaming service.
Yeah, which is their streaming Disney Plus.
So let me just explain something.
They did not. If they didn't just the weekend before the release go, hey, we're also going to put this on Disney Plus.
Right. So here's what, for people who might not understand, we do have a link to the Variety article in the description. But a lot of actors at this level have a deal where they go, hey, listen, half of the draw of this film is me on the title, right?
Right.
So they get a back end cut where they don't get their. So a lot of guys, they'll work for a day rate, or they'll work, on the low end, work for a day rate, work for a specific number, a contract number. But sometimes they say, hey, listen, for this investment to be worth it to you, for you to want to do this movie. Because the studio understands, if we get Tom Cruise to do another Mission Impossible, the draw is going to be X. And if we just do a spinoff of Mission Impossible without Tom Cruise, it's going to be a third of that.
Yeah,
So,
well, and not only from a standpoint of they get a cut on the back, they typically, like in this case, they have bonus structures based on the income. If the income for worldwide is X, you get a bonus of Y. So it's not just a percentage; it's also this bonus structure, which is what she's actually suing them over. She's making the argument that because they made it available on Disney Plus for $30 a pop, that less people went to the movies, which apparently, according to her contract, is all she gets credit for, right?
Which is stupid.
Went to the movies, and that her argument is since less people went to the movies to watch it because they had it available at home, she didn't meet her bonus structure, which would have been another $50 million in her pocket, and she's blaming Disney for that. Now, this is not the first time this has occurred in our post-worldwide era that we've been in. It's come up before. Warner Brothers, when they came out with HBO Max, and they came out and said, what was it, midsummer last year, that, hey, all of our movies that are coming out at the movie theaters in the next year or 18 months are going to be available on HBO Max as well, day one. What they did, because the same contract situation came up with some of their stars, Will Smith, Keanu Reeves, Denzel Washington, right? They up front went to those people and gave them their max bonus. They basically said, "Here, you know what I mean? Here's what we said you would get, because we're not doing this. We're just gonna. This is a new world we're all living in. We're all figuring it out."
And when they finally came out with Wonder Woman 1984, let me tell you how happy I was that I didn't spend a godforsaken penny to go to the theater and watch that garbage.
It was not great.
Garbage.
I love Wonder Woman.
Garbage. Yes.
That movie was not great.
The first Wonder Woman was fantastic.
It was fantastic.
The Zack Snyder cut of Justice League.
Oh, fantastic.
Amazing.
Fantastic. So
dedicated half of my life. Like, I dedicated an evening to that.
Yes, you were like, have you watched it yet? I was like, it's 4 hours, man. Like,
good.
Great. But, so in this case, HBO Max, Warner Brothers, did the right thing. Disney, and look, this is not Disney's first rodeo with doing something that the industry says, hey, here's the right thing to do, and Disney goes, well, we're Disney, forget you. We're going to do whatever we want to do. Them writing her a $50 million check, because, and let's talk about this. So the first weekend numbers came in, it's made over $300 million since it came out, but the first weekend, which is when most people go to the box office to see things, it made $80 million in North America. It made $78 million overseas, so that's $150 million.
Not a big box office for a weekend.
Well, it's actually the lowest of any of the newest Marvel movies since the original. It's actually the lowest, which I'm sure is part of her problem, right?
Right.
But then they made another $60 million off the Disney Plus, off the streaming. She gets $0 of that $60 million that went directly to Disney. And oh, by the way, you and I both know when people go to the movies and you pay a ticket for that, they are splitting that $158 million with the cinemas, with movie stars, with all kinds of different people, middlemen. That $60 million that you paid $30 a pop to see that in your own home goes straight to Disney. They are splitting it with nobody. So she gets no credit and knows that they made an additional $60 million straight to their bottom line that cost them nothing extra.
But I wonder if her argument is kind of weak, because I don't know about you, but I have Marvel fatigue. I don't care anymore. I'm done. Like this after this arc, I don't care anymore. Like, I'm out, bro. But I'm just saying, the movie didn't do that well on the Disney Plus side either.
No. In the grand scheme of things, like I just said, it is the worst. Even during this last 18 months, it is the worst performing movie of the Marvel series. Now, again, you can say, obviously, theaters are still not at capacity, and not everybody's going out and whatever. Right. But so you're right. And a lot of people are in your shoes of the Marvel fatigue. A lot of people are. I'm not, but I get where you're coming from with that. What I think, though, is you've got a situation here where Disney probably doesn't have to pay her based on her contract, because we all know how contracts lag behind technology and business and stuff like that from time to time. Right. But according to a couple of the articles that came out, though, the problem, why they're probably going to settle with her and probably give her her money is, and this happens also in business, you get emails going between Scarlett Johansson's people and their people, and one of their people sends an email with the wrong sentence in it. And that happened back in March when they said, hey, we're going to release this on Disney Plus as well. Yeah. The Marvel chief executive sent her an email that said, we understand that the plan should the plan change, we would need to discuss with you and come to an understanding, as the deal is based on a series of very large box office bonuses. So they acknowledged back then to her in an email that if we go this route, which they did, that they were acknowledging her point. And apparently that never come to fruition. This happens in sports contracts a lot, where they go, well, if you're still playing in 2 years, we'll renegotiate in good faith. Right. Or if the market goes up for linebackers in the next year, we'll renegotiate. Right. Well, who decides what good faith is?
Correct. So what's interesting here is, this is a great example of why I hesitate to send business-related emails. I'm like, hey, can you just get on the phone with me really quick?
Absolutely. You and me both, brother. I agree.
I'm like, because I already can imagine I can already imagine the deposition video of me going, sure, Mr. Thomas, so when you sent this email on the 3rd of July.
Exactly.
And me
but
just
that's
going,
what business is, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you as the chief... This wasn't even some intern that, like, this is the chief executive of Marvel, right? Which the fact that they have a chief executive in charge of a movie franchise, right? Like, at Disney. Like, you're in charge of Marvel crap. That's how big it is, right? And look, Disney came out the next day. Like, at first, Disney wasn't taking any phone calls about this or whatever. Disney came out the next day and released a little of account basically saying... the normal stuff you was to, how dare Scarlett Johansson, say things like this, especially during the world that we currently live in. Yeah. We're all just trying to make things work together, blah, blah, blah. And then they said, look, they pulled the whole, and this, this happened again in sports sometimes when, like, they're renegotiating a contract and they're like, oh, God, $1 million. He's such a quarterback. He's just a big baby. Who cares if he get paid $20 million or $22 million? You play football, right?
Right.
Disney did this whole, well, we've paid her according to her contract. She's already received $20 million.
Yeah, but the point is, it's not about the money. We made a deal on terms, and you switched the terms up. And I believe in free markets, radical free markets.
Absolutely.
I also believe in one other thing, right? It's God, radical free markets, and then family, Fast and Furious, of course, family. And then fourth after all of that is be petty. Sometimes you have, like, no, I agreed to something. Right. Be petty. Like, we agreed to terms. And I'm only asking you to live up to the terms that we agreed to. The world has changed. I'm open to the dialogue about what that means in the context of, we made the contract in a universe where this was where stuff was weird.
Where streaming
wasn't weird yet.
Yeah, exactly.
And this is the world we live in now. I could live with, let's have a renegotiation, bring that 50 down to 20. I can live with that. What I can't live with is world change, shove it. No.
Well, they're playing the court of public opinion in releasing this. By them coming out and saying, well, we've already given her a $20 million check. She's not suffering. She's a They're trying the public opinion. They don't care about the legalese at that point.
And
they
you made $60 million in the first weekend on direct into your pocket off streaming.
Yeah. Exactly. So they just don't want, and that's why they'll probably end up paying her. Right? Yeah. Whatever she's wanting and whatever, or at least a big
Scarlett
chunk enough.
Johansson, if you want to come be on our podcast and you want to formally, talk about this, we're so happy to have you.
Explain in a business and marketplace way how Disney screwed you over, right?
Correct.
We are here for it. Let us know. Yes. We'll make it work on our schedule.
That's correct. I mean, I'm pretty busy. I've got I'm running a couple of businesses.
Danny is pretty busy, but for Scarlett Johansson, we will make.
I will make the time for Scarlett Johansson. Also, if there's plenty of actresses who would like to come. I'm here for that.
You know what? I don't know why, but I got a creepy vibe from you right then. I don't
know why you would get
it. This is a business and marketplace news podcast, right? This isn't Tinder for you. All right, let's go. Let's move on.
All right.